Okay, let's do this. But before we start, just something to get out of the way. Everything I'm going to tell you presumes and assumes that you already have product market fit. This system only works if you have a product or service that people actually want and that they're willing to pay some money for. It doesn't work if you're trying to sell crap. So please note, it's not about what you're good at, and it doesn't really matter what you want to do or don't want to do, and it doesn't really care about your passion. All of those things are great, and it helps if they're in the mix too, but they don't actually make a difference. What does make a difference is whether people want what you have. Are you solving a problem for them? So that's an important caveat. Number one, understanding how the rich get richer requires a key mindset shift. And that is that you need to understand that business is about a flywheel and not a funnel. Hat tip to Jim Collins on this one. We'll use his example with Amazon to just illustrate what he meant. So Amazon's flywheel comprises these 5 little mini wheels or legs or leverage points. One is low prices, which then attracts more customers. More customers at the marketplace attracts more sellers. More sellers allows you to expand the store and the distribution. And then that, of course, grows revenue. And then you can lower prices again. And so the circle keeps turning. And that is a flywheel in action. In the good old days, Google's flywheel would have looked something like this. Good search results, where people put in their search, they get good search results. That attracts more users because the users are getting what they want. And because they get more users, they can actually now get better data and insights and fine-tune the search. Let's look at a personal trainer. So a personal trainer might start off by saying, you know what, we're going to give good exercise and advice. That makes the people that attend their sessions feel healthy. Because they feel good about themselves, they keep attending. And then because they keep attending, they get more exercise, they feel better, and so forth. So a good virtuous circle for your personal trainer. With this example, I'm going to just quickly introduce the idea of a USP because I think it's important that you understand that. The USP is often your starting point in this funnel. So a plumber might decide to position themselves as being available 24/7. And if they're available 24/7, then obviously that allows them to attract more bookings. And because they have more bookings, they get more revenue. They can employ more staff. They can increase their availability. And then if you have a different USP, so this particular plumber says, okay, we will be there within the hour, emergency plumbing. And that will drive more bookings and more revenue and more staff, which gives them the option to increase their speed. And so whatever your unique selling proposition is, that is the starting point of your flywheel, and that will drive your business. Now, the takeaway is, of course, right, focus on your flywheel and not on a funnel. A funnel implies something that is leaky, that you have to keep topping up at the top and it keeps leaking out at the bottom. And as soon as you stop filling in at the top, everything stops. A flywheel, on the other hand, is about identifying how the system works and then applying some leverage in that system to build momentum. So that's the general idea of a flywheel. So the question, of course, is, so how do you exactly do that? I've already mentioned the idea of leverage because that's the key. Archimedes said, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum where to put it, and then I can move the world. So we've all done that, right? So we've dug a rock or broken a branch in a tree, in a garden or something, and we understand leverage. But how does that apply in business? Because it applies to a particular system. What is a system? So the simplest representation of a system is, in this example, I'm going to use, a system for baking a cake. So you can see there's inputs, processes, and outputs. So you take flour, butter, milk, sugar, whatever, and you've got a process of mixing, baking, and processing it, and then that produces the cake. So that's in the simplest form what a system looks like. And in business, the same principle applies. And the idea is that you now need to understand, okay, how do I apply leverage at the various points, and at which points do I apply leverage? The general idea is forget about the output, because what's done is done. You make a difference by leveraging the inputs and the processes, in particular, the inputs. In this example, if you compare this to a generic business, the economists will tell you the key economic inputs into our economic system is man, machine, materials, money. And at the micro level, that applies to any size business as well. They have the same inputs, and then the processes, of course, whatever that is business uniquely produces, generally, buying things, selling things, making things, producing, shipping, whatever. And that the end game of that is happy customers and profits and so forth. That's the general idea for our local plumber. Their inputs are tools, parts, labor, money. The processes be whatever they fix, repair, dig up, etc. And then that produces for them profits, of course. So now we have to say, okay, how do we leverage in this example in your business, whether it's a coaching business or a training business or a retail business? Like, how do you leverage your staff? How do you leverage your materials? How do you leverage your technology in order to get a better outcome? Because that is the key. Rich people leverage knowledge, connections, and that helps them identify opportunities. Once they've identified those opportunities, they leverage money. So because they typically have assets, they can leverage those assets into liquid capital and then go and exploit those investment opportunities without putting their base capital at risk. And then, of course, they leverage time by having other people do the work for them. Now, the same exact thing applies to us. The question is just, how do you do that? So we too must do exactly the same thing. We have to use leverage. We have to leverage our inputs. We have to leverage our processes. And we have to find the key points in our business that we can do. You might not be able to go and borrow, $1 million or $100,000 or whatever to get somebody to work for you straight away. But there are smaller points of leverage that you apply, and they progressively increase over time, and you start moving the world that way. So it's iterative. So you just keep doing it over and over and over again to the level that you can, and gradually over time your leverage will increase. So the critical difference though here is, just in closing, if you want to get something out of this tutorial though, I just should say that it might take 10 minutes to watch this. It might take another 10 minutes or so to plan what you're going to do, but it's going to be a lifetime of implementation. I said already it's an iterative process, but building this system up and then eventually keeping that momentum, it's hard work initially. It does get easier, but it never really stops. So it's important that you understand that. So the inertia quotient is your propensity or your bias for action. It's a really important thing. So, and it costs a lot of money to not do what you know needs to be done. So let's say a business is worth potentially $1 million, and any small business really is worth potentially $1 million, or at least can generate $1 million worth of revenue. And when you then say, okay, well, that's what the potential is, this is what my business can do or currently does, then the difference is the cost of not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So not knowing what to do, or if you know what to do but not doing it, actually has a huge cost to the business. And you might think that you don't have the money to employ a VA, or you don't have the money to improve your website or whatever. If you don't do those things though, that you never will be able to apply leverage. And this is the money that you're leaving on the table. All of the potential remains on the table, never to be capitalized on. There's a little cheat sheet for you to just capture the things that you've learned today in this tutorial. Figure out, okay, what is the potential money that you're leaving on the table? That should be your motivation. Figure out what's your flywheel, what you're going to do, which areas you're going to focus on, and then get to it. That's it.